121 and lesson 134, adding, multiplying, and dividing integers. Now, the reason I am skipping ahead to lesson 134 to talk about multiplying and dividing integers is that we're running low on time and you really need to understand how to multiply and divide negative numbers before you go into pre-algebra. So I wanted to make sure that you guys review that before you leave this class. So first of all, what is an integer? An integer is a counting number, okay? Any negative number is also an integer, and 0 is an integer. So what that doesn't include is fractions, decimals, or percentages. So you can count up from negatives, and you can count positives. Now, one thing I want to mention is every positive number has an opposite negative number. And conversely, every negative number has an opposite positive number. So if I were to take, the number 10, okay? The opposite of 10 is negative 10. And the opposite of negative 10 is 10. So that's going to be kind of important moving forward. But what you also need to know is that any number plus its opposite is equal to 0. Okay? That's kind of a little rule of math. Math has a lot of these little rules that right now you need to just know them. And later, as you delve deeper into the theory of math, you can understand them a little bit. All right, so let's talk about adding integers. This should be fairly straightforward. If we are looking at a number line, if you imagine like a thermometer here, okay? So here's my 0 degrees. Up here is 30 degrees Celsius. So this line here would be negative 10 degrees Celsius, and this would be a negative 20 degrees Celsius. So we're used to dealing with negatives when we're talking about something like temperature. So if it was 0 degrees, and I knew the temperature was going to drop 10 degrees, okay, then I know that I would have negative 10 degrees after that temperature dropped. Another way of writing this would be to say that I added negative 10 degrees. So 0 plus negative 10 degrees is negative 10 degrees. Okay, so right here, if I add a positive number, I'm going this way on the number line. And if I add a negative number, I'm going to go this way on the number line. All right, let's dive into some examples. If we have positive 8 and we add negative 5, what do we get? Well, we're going to start at positive 8 over here on the number line. And we are going to add a negative 5. So we're just going to go back negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right here. And that makes 3. So it's the same as saying 8 minus 5, which we all know is 3. All right, here's our second example. What is negative 5 plus negative 3? Again, let's draw our number line. I'm going to put 0 over here. And I'm going to start at negative 5, which is right here. And I'm adding negative 3. So when I add when I add a negative number, I go this way on the number line. So that's 1, 2, 3. And my answer is negative 8. Negative 5 plus negative 3 is negative 8. Or, in other words, negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. Okay, those mean the same thing. If you can imagine this too as debt, let's say you owe your friend $5 and then you borrow another $3. Well, now you owe your friend $8. Okay, so that's a simple way of looking at it. Now let's get into multiplying and dividing negative and positive numbers. There's some simple rules that you must follow. If you really want to look up why this is, it has to do with algebra, and it has to do with some of those rules that we have in algebra, like distributive property. But for now, you just need to sort of follow the rules. Don't really need to understand. The first rule is, thankfully, really easy. A positive number multiplied by a positive number equals a positive number. And likewise, a positive number divided by a positive number is going to equal a positive number. The second rule is also easier to understand. If we think about debt again, okay? If you owe $1 to 5 friends, okay, you're going to owe $5 total. All right, so a positive number times a negative number equals a negative number. And then a positive number divided by a negative number, or a negative number divided by a positive number, is going to equal negative. So if we have even one negative in our equation, and actually only just one, we are going to end up with a negative number. The last one is not as easy to understand, and I'm not going to get into the explanation of it, but a negative number multiplied by a negative number equals a positive number. Now, your book explains it in terms of opposites, right? So if you have the opposite of 3 multiplied by the opposite of 4, then what you're going to get is not the opposite of 12, because that's what you got here, right? 3 times the opposite of 4 equals the opposite of 12, or negative 12. You're going to get the opposite of the opposite. So you're going to get positive 12. Okay, just trust me on this one. This makes sense when we're talking about algebra. So when you get into pre-algebra, you need to understand that a negative multiplied by a negative equals a positive. And a negative divided by a negative also equals a positive. So we're going to go through a couple of examples here. Okay, so you guys are going to have to excuse my handwriting. I can't find my Apple pen, which worries me, but that's okay. So 8 times 4, positive 8 times positive 4. All right, we all know our math facts, so we know that that is 32. All right, positive 8 times negative 4. What is it? It is negative 32. And negative 8 times negative 4 is also going to be positive 32, because a negative times a negative equals positive. All right, let's look at dividing. 8 divided by positive 4 is 2. 8 divided by negative 4 is going to be negative 2. And finally, negative 8 divided by negative 4, those are both negative numbers. You're going to get a positive 2. Okay, so we're going to review this a little bit.